These are just some statistics about accidents and whatnot that they tell police officers to really get them motivated. Get on out there and catch those drunks is what they tell them. And they're all lies, okay? These things are drafted up statistically errored, flawed methodologies. They ask people who are exiting a bar, hey, would you mind blowing into a breath test? A little PBT? Sure. The person then blows way over the legal limit because they're coming fresh out of the bar, and the cop says, now would you have driven tonight? Yes? Oh, all right, so that is where we get our statistics for. And these were people that were not driving, okay? These are people that were not driving. We also inflate our alcohol fatalities by making up a number called alcohol-related fatalities. And then we take those alcohol-related fatalities and multiply that even, all right? There is approximately 50 to 60 blood draws done in the state lab up at Michigan State Police that involve fatal accidents every year, all right? That means that there are 50 to 60 fatal motor vehicle accidents that involve drunk drivers. And I'll be the first to admit, that's too many, okay? But it is not the 300 or 400 that's claimed, that's attributed to Michigan every year by MAD and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Unless, of course, in the average drunk driving case, 4 to 6 people are killed, I guess. But no, that's not the case, because statistically we can look at that information and we know that the number one person that a drunk driver kills, statistically, is him or herself. The number 2 person killed by a drunk driver, statistically, is the passenger of the vehicle, who is usually drunker than the driver. That's why the driver was the one driving. You drive tonight, buddy. I had too many. All right, I think I can keep it between the lanes. What we see, though, is this trend, okay? Back in the 1960s, the American Medical Association was approached, and they said, what is a per se limit that we should have? What level should we pass as a matter of law that it is so high that no one should be driving at that level? And they said 0.15. At 0.15, statistically speaking, no one should be getting behind the wheel. And a few years later, they said, well, let's reduce that down to 0.10. Why? Why is a per se level? Why isn't it just left up to the jury as to whether or not this person is actually intoxicated? Because we've all seen people at 0.12 who are very drunk, and we have seen people at 0.12 who are not drunk at all. And then we start to debate over the accident rates from 0.10 to 0.08. And of course, they promised us that we were going to save all sorts of lives by lowering it to 0.08, and not one life was ever saved. What instead they did was they increased their coffers. They made more citizens guilty of drunk driving. And now they're talking about lowering it to 0.05. Earlier this last spring, the National Traffic Safety Board was recommending an 0.05 limit, and there was outrage by the media and the public at large. They said 0.08 is already low enough, gosh darn it, and it doesn't need to be going lower. And NTSB backed up and said, no, we were just kind of kidding there. And sure enough, just last month, the head of the NTSB came out and yet again recommended a 0.05. And New Zealand just a couple weeks ago passed their 0.5. So this is going on. They are trying to lower it even further at this point. And yet, back in 2002, the Canadian government was looking at reducing theirs to 0.5, and there was an extensive study done by a very conservative, anti-alcohol, anti-drunk driving group, and they looked at it and they said, no, this is going to be counterproductive, actually. And then, of course, we also enact super drunk, because back in the 60s, this was really drunk, or this was drunk. 0.15 was drunk. And we looked at the Grand Rapids study, which said that most fatal motor vehicle accidents occur at 0.17 or higher. And so we fast forward from the 60s on forward to this 0.08 level, and then we go back just a couple of years ago and say, no, you know what? We were really serious about that 0.17. Come on. People are not more drunk nowadays. The human body has not changed in these intervening decades. Now, briefly talking about the standardized field sobriety training course, and I apologize that I'm talking so fast, but I'm trying to get through a massive amount of materials here. Standardized field sobriety tests are horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one-leg stand. These are the only 3 validated tests. From 1977, there was a validation study taken by the Southern California Research Institute pursuant to a grant by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. These were developed from 1977 forward. In 77, they explored all sorts of various field sobriety tests that police officers were reportedly using from across the country. This included things like alphabet, finger count, finger to nose, etc. These things were statistically analyzed through extensive research. And it turns out, lo and behold, that some tests are not accurate at all. As a matter of fact, when we talk about accuracy, the 3 tests that have been validated actually themselves are quite flawed. We'll talk about that in a moment.